day 4 of our journey from Mississippi to Maine. We awoke, unlike many other mornings on our trip, in nice, cool air conditioning, with thanks to EAA Chapter 5 at Geauga County Airport. After packing the gear and loading the airplane, we departed into the nice clear sky and headed east. As we made our way east across the rolling, smooth farmland of Ohio, the visibility started to drop. We continued on into Pennsylvania, where the terrain got even more abrupt, and the visibility continued to drop. We were really moving, though, thanks to a tailwind. As we reached our first destination for the morning, St. Mary's Airport, the winds were starting to get rather turbulent. We made our approach into the wind and was thankful for a smooth touchdown. As we taxied in, we noticed that a large hangar next to the FBO was full of half-finished Stearmans. We taxied in and shut down and made our way over to the hangar. The mechanics working were nice and introduced themselves and let us borrow their truck to head into town for breakfast. Heading back to the airport, we climbed back in and continued on our way to the northeast. Up to this point, we had been working with absolutely perfect weather, but at this point, with our goal to get up into Maine and to get as far north as possible, we had to finally contend with some not-so-nice weather. The weather had been terrible along the eastern seaboard and was running almost all the way up into Massachusetts. Well, at this point, the weather had worked its way almost into our path, and we didn't have much of a gap to make our way up into Maine. We continued over the rolling hills and low mountains, which are part of the Appalachians there in Pennsylvania. We made our way to Siemens Airport in middle northern Pennsylvania, where we stopped to gas up. There was nobody around, and we made our way to the pump and filled up the airplane. After we went looking for the restroom, we didn't have much luck until the airport manager backed his truck up all the way from a maintenance hangar to unlock the door for us. With water bottles refilled and bladders emptied, we continued on to the north, headed for New York. The weather was going to stop us as there was a system moving across middle New York. We knew if we waited it out, it would eventually move on and we could continue. We made it as far north as Rome, New York before the weather finally made us stop. Rome being a former B-52 base, we made a nice landing on the rather long runway and taxied into the one FBO on the field. Shutting down between a 172 and the hangar, the line guy ran out and started waving his arms. Apparently we had parked too close for FAA regulations. Even though we were just small-time pilots, we were thankful to take advantage of the big-time benefits of a large FBO. For only $1, we got a meal ticket that was valid at restaurants in town and took the courtesy car into town to eat at Raspberry's Cafe. The food was great, and we then headed back to the airport to wait out the weather. After a long nap, we finally woke up and saw that the weather was clear enough to head north. We continued on out of Rome and headed up over the Adirondacks. The weather wasn't as good as we had hoped, but it seemed doable. As we continued on, we came across a broken layer and decided to climb above, up to over 6,000 feet, which took quite a while. We made it over the top and continued on, but as we continued on, the layer got thicker and thicker until we realized we needed to spiral down through one of the last remaining holes. As we descended into the murkiness, we were disappointed to find ourselves in marginal VFR conditions over the desolate Adirondack Mountains. We continued on with clear air to the west and mountain obscuration to the right. We were in a precarious position, and I had a pit in my stomach the entire time. We continued over desolate lakes and low mountain ridges as we continued on. As we made it over the northern end of the Adirondacks, we finally reached the shore and continued across to our final destination for the evening, Franklin County Airport in Swanton, Vermont. We made our approach into Swanton and set the airplane down for the night. The airport manager's brother was kind enough to meet us and offered his truck for us to use for the evening, and even also offered for us to spend the night in a hangar. I guess they knew that it was going to get down below 30. We took the truck into town after dropping off our gear and had a great dinner at a local pizza joint. We stopped at a local park and took pictures of the shoreline of Lake Champlain, which was just beautiful in the setting sun. We photographed local farmland as the sun began to set. Making our way back, we could feel the temperature starting to drop, and we were finally thankful to be in a nice warm hangar. We bedded down for the night and fell quickly to sleep.